My parents left for their anniversary trip on a Friday morning. 2 weeks in Italy. They'd been planning it for years. I was 19, home from college for the summer, and perfectly capable of taking care of the house. No parties, no guests, just me and the family dog, Charlie. There's food in the freezer, my mom said, hugging me at the door. And the Hendersons next door have our number if anything happens. I'll be fine, Mom. Go have fun. They left at 6 a.m. to catch their flight. By 7, I was back in bed, enjoying the rare silence of an empty house. I woke up around noon and took Charlie for a walk around the neighborhood. When we got back, I noticed something odd. The side gate to our backyard was open. Just slightly, maybe 6 inches of space. I always checked that gate. My dad had drilled it into me since I was a kid. Charlie liked to escape and chase squirrels, so we kept it latched. I walked over and closed it, sliding the metal latch into place. Probably the wind. We had a storm the night before. Inside, I made lunch and settled onto the couch with my laptop. I had 2 weeks of freedom, and I planned to enjoy it. Netflix, video games, sleeping until noon. The dream. Around 3 p.m., I went upstairs to grab my phone charger from my room. When I walked in, I froze. My desk drawer was open. The bottom drawer, where I kept old notebooks and random junk. I never used it. It hadn't been opened in months. I stood there, staring at it. Had I opened it this morning? No. I hadn't been near my desk. Charlie wandered into the room behind me, his nails clicking on the hardwood floor. He sniffed at the drawer, then lost interest and flopped onto his dog bed. I closed the drawer and shook it off. Maybe I'd opened it yesterday and forgot. Maybe my mom had been looking for something before they left. That evening, I ordered pizza and watched movies until midnight. Charlie slept at my feet, snoring softly. Everything felt normal, safe. I went to bed around 1 a.m., leaving a few lights on downstairs like I always did when I was alone. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. The house was completely silent. No wind, no creaking pipes, nothing. Just that thick, dead silence that only comes in the middle of the night. Charlie was standing at my bedroom door, staring out into the hallway. His ears were up, his body tense. A low growl rumbled in his chest. "Charlie? What's wrong, boy?" He didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on something in the darkness of the hallway. I got out of bed and walked to the door. The hallway was empty. The night light near the bathroom cast a dim glow, illuminating the familiar space. Nothing was there, but Charlie wouldn't stop growling. I flipped on the hallway light. Empty. I checked my parents' room. Empty. My sister's room, the bathroom, the guest room. All empty. There's nothing there, buddy. Come on. But when I got back to my room, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. My closet door was open. Wide open. I always closed it before bed. Always. I had this stupid childhood fear of open closets at night, and even at 19, I still couldn't sleep with it open. I approached slowly, my heart pounding. I grabbed a baseball bat from the corner of my room and held it ready. Then I yanked the closet door wider and looked inside. Clothes, shoes, boxes of old stuff. Nothing else. I checked behind the hanging clothes, moved boxes, looked in every corner. Empty. I closed the door firmly and pushed my desk chair in front of it. Then I got back in bed, but I didn't sleep. I kept the lights on and watched the door until the sun came up. In the morning, everything seemed ridiculous. I was jumpy, paranoid. Being alone in the house was getting to me. I went downstairs to make coffee. That's when I saw them. Photographs. 3 of them, lined up on the kitchen counter. They were pictures of me. One from yesterday, walking Charlie in the neighborhood. One from the evening, visible through our living room window, sitting on the couch. One from late at night, taken through my bedroom window, me asleep in bed. My hands started shaking. These photos were taken with a decent camera. Clear, focused, deliberate. Someone had been watching me, following me, taking pictures, and then they'd been inside the house. They'd put these photos here while I was sleeping. I grabbed my phone and called 911. Someone's been in my house. They left photographs. They've been watching me. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They searched the entire house, top to bottom. They checked every window, every door. Everything was locked from the inside. "Are you sure you didn't take these pictures yourself?" the male officer asked, examining the photos. "Maybe as a project or something?" "No, I don't even own a camera like that." "What about friends? Anyone playing a prank?" "I haven't seen any friends. I've been alone since my parents left yesterday." They took the photos as evidence and checked the perimeter of the house. No signs of forced entry. No footprints in the mulch beneath my bedroom window. Nothing. "We'll increase patrols in the area," the female officer said. "Keep your doors locked. Call immediately if anything else happens." After they left, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the counter where the photos had been. I called my parents, but they were somewhere over the Atlantic, their phones off. I wasn't staying here alone. I packed a bag and loaded Charlie into my car. I'd stay at my friend Emma's apartment until my parents got back. But before I left, I did something. I set up my laptop in the living room, angled toward the front door and the stairs. I started the webcam recording and hid the laptop behind some books on the shelf. If someone came back, I'd have proof. I stayed at Emma's for 3 days. She didn't ask too many questions, which I appreciated. On the 3rd day, I decided to go back and check the house. It was the middle of the afternoon, broad daylight. I'd grab the laptop, get the recording, and leave again. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked normal. The lawn, the windows, the front door, all exactly as I'd left it. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house smelled stale, like it had been closed up for too long. I went straight to the living room and pulled out the laptop from behind the books. The recording had stopped after 6 hours. The battery had died, but 6 hours was enough to capture the first night. I sat on the couch and opened the video file. I fast-forwarded through hours of nothing. Empty room, shadows moving as the sun set, then darkness. At timestamp 2 hours 47 minutes and 33 seconds, something moved. I paused and rewound. Watched it again at normal speed. A figure walked past the camera. Slowly, carefully. A person dressed in dark clothes, moving through my living room in the middle of the night. They stood in front of the stairs for a long moment, their back to the camera. Then they turned around. The face was obscured by a hood, but I could see eyes, staring directly at the camera. At me. They knew it was there. They'd known all along. The figure stood there for almost a full minute, not moving, just staring. Then they walked out of frame, toward the kitchen. The video continued for 3 more hours. Nothing else happened, but they'd been in the house. They'd walked right past my hidden camera and knew exactly where it was. I grabbed my laptop, ran out of the house, and drove straight to the police station. They took the recording, opened an investigation, enhanced the video, but the face was too obscured. No identifying features. They checked with neighbors. No one had seen anyone suspicious. My parents cut their trip short and came home. We changed all the locks, installed a security system, put up cameras. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. A week after my parents got home, I was going through some old boxes in the garage. I found a photo album from my childhood. I was flipping through it when I saw something that stopped me cold. One of the photos was missing, cut right out of the album. The edges were ragged, like someone had removed it carefully. It was a picture of our house, a wide shot showing the front yard, the driveway, the windows. It had been taken when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. Written on the back of the facing page, in handwriting I didn't recognize, were 3 words. "I've been waiting." The photo had been removed years ago, long before any of this started. Maybe when I was still a child. Maybe when we first moved into this house. Whoever was watching me had been planning this for a very long time. We moved out 6 months later. Sold the house to a young couple with a baby. I wanted to warn them. I almost did. But what would I even say? I still don't know who it was. I still don't know what they wanted. The police never found anything. The case went cold. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if they're watching my new apartment. If they followed me here. If they're still waiting. I was 15 when it happened. My parents had gone to a wedding 3 hours away and decided to stay overnight at a hotel. My older brother was supposed to watch me, but he had other plans. "I'm going to Dave's," he announced around 7 p.m. "You'll be fine. Just don't burn the house down. You're supposed to stay here. You're 15, not 5. Watch TV. Order pizza. I'll be back by midnight." He left before I could argue, his car disappearing down the street. Our house was built in the 1960s. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a basement that my dad used as a workshop. The basement had 2 entrances, stairs from inside the house through a door in the kitchen, and an exterior entrance with concrete steps leading down from the backyard. My dad was obsessive about keeping both basement doors locked. The interior door had a deadbolt. The exterior door had a heavy padlock. He kept tools down there, expensive equipment, and he didn't want anyone getting in. I'd been in the basement maybe a dozen times in my life. It was my dad's space, dark and cluttered with machinery I didn't understand. I had no reason to go down there. I ordered Chinese food and settled in to watch a movie. The house felt bigger when I was alone. Every sound seemed amplified. The refrigerator humming, the furnace clicking on, the old house settling. Around 9 p.m., I heard something that made me pause the movie. A thud, coming from below, from the basement. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing, just silence. Then another thud, heavier this time, like something falling over. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. The basement door was closed, the deadbolt engaged. I put my ear against the door and listened. Silence. "Hello?" I called out. No response. I was being paranoid. Old houses make noise. Pipes clink, wood shifts, foundations settle. It was nothing. I went back to my movie. 10 minutes later, I heard it again. Not a thud this time. Footsteps. Someone walking around in the basement. I grabbed my phone and called my brother. It went to voicemail. "Tyler, I think someone's in the basement. Call me back." I called my dad. No answer. They were at the wedding reception. Phone's probably on silent. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the basement door, my heart pounding. The footsteps had stopped. Everything was quiet again. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks because I was alone and scared. I decided to check. I'd open the door, look down the stairs, confirm nothing was there, and then I'd feel stupid and laugh about it later. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. The basement stairs descended into darkness. The light switch was at the bottom of the stairs, which had always seemed like terrible design to me. "Dad, did you come home?" My voice sounded small and pathetic. Obviously, my dad wasn't down there. His car wasn't in the driveway. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the wooden stairs. I took 1 step down, 2 steps, 3. At the bottom, I reached for the light switch and flipped it. The basement flooded with harsh fluorescent light. I looked around quickly. My dad's workbench was covered with tools, shelves lined with paint cans and supplies, boxes stacked in corners. Everything looked normal. No one was there. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. See? Nothing. Just an old house making old house sounds. I turned to go back upstairs, and that's when I noticed the exterior door. The padlock was on the floor, unlocked, and the door was open. Just an inch. Just enough to let in the cold night air. My blood went ice cold. I stared at that open door, unable to move. Someone had been down here. Someone had unlocked that door from the inside, which meant they were in the house when I got home. They'd been in the basement this whole time. I ran, up the stairs, through the kitchen, straight to the front door. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the deadbolt. I burst outside into the cold night and ran to our neighbor's house, Mrs. Patterson, pounding on her door. "Please, someone's in my house. Please help." Mrs. Patterson opened the door, her face full of concern. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "Someone's in our basement. The door was unlocked. Please, I need to call the police." She pulled me inside and called 911 while her husband, Mr. Patterson, grabbed a flashlight and went to check our house. I begged him not to go, but he insisted. The police arrived 8 minutes later. They searched the entire house, including the basement. No one was there, but the basement door was indeed unlocked, the padlock sitting on the floor. "Any chance your dad left it unlocked?" the officer asked. "No, never. He's obsessive about locking it." They dusted for fingerprints. Found dozens, but they all belonged to my family. The door showed no signs of forced entry. "Whoever was here is gone now," the officer said. "Is there somewhere you can stay tonight?" Mrs. Patterson offered to let me sleep on her couch. I accepted immediately. There was no way I was staying in that house alone. My brother came home at 12:30 a.m. to find police cars in the driveway and me at the neighbor's house. He felt terrible. My parents drove home the next morning, cutting their trip short. My dad checked the basement thoroughly. Nothing was missing. Nothing was disturbed. But the lock had definitely been opened from the inside. "Maybe I forgot to lock it," he said, though he didn't sound convinced. We changed all the locks. I never stayed home alone again. But here's what I never told anyone. When the police were searching the basement, I stayed upstairs with Mrs. Patterson. But from the kitchen window, I could see the exterior basement entrance, the concrete steps leading down to where the door was. And I saw something that made my blood run cold. Fresh footprints in the dirt at the bottom of the stairs, leading away from the door. The police had gone down those stairs, but these prints were different, smaller, and they led away from the house, across the backyard, toward the fence. Someone had been in that basement, and while everyone was distracted by the police search, they'd slipped out the exterior door and disappeared into the night. I saw them for just a second, a figure climbing over the back fence, moving fast. I should have said something, shouted, pointed, but I was frozen, watching through the window as they disappeared into the darkness. I think about it sometimes, about how they must have been hiding down there, maybe for hours, waiting for the right moment to leave. About how I'd walked down those stairs, stood just feet away from wherever they were concealing themselves. About how, when I turned my back to look at the open door, they could have done anything. My brother asked me once, years later, if I really thought someone had been in the house that night. I told him I didn't know, that maybe I'd imagined it all. But I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and I know I was never really alone that night. I was house sitting for the Caldwell family for 2 weeks while they vacationed in Hawaii. The job was simple: water the plants, bring in the mail, feed their cat, and sleep in the guest room to make the house look occupied. They lived in a beautiful colonial-style home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. For bedrooms, a finished basement, a pool in the backyard. The kind of house I dreamed of owning someday. Mrs. Caldwell had given me a detailed instruction sheet, a key, and the security code. "Make yourself at home," she'd said. "Watch our TV, use the kitchen, whatever you need. Just take care of Whiskers." Whiskers was a huge orange tabby who spent most of his time sleeping on the living room couch. Easy job. The first few days were uneventful. I'd come over after my shift at the coffee shop, feed the cat, water the plants, and watch Netflix on their massive TV. Sometimes I'd swim in the pool. It felt like a vacation. On the 4th night, I decided to sleep over instead of going back to my cramped apartment. The guest room was nicer than my entire living space, and Mrs. Caldwell had said I could stay whenever I wanted. I was getting ready for bed around 11 p.m. when the house phone rang. Not my cell phone, the Caldwell's landline, a cordless phone sitting on the kitchen counter. I stared at it, watching it light up with each ring. I picked it up. "Hello? Hi, is David there?" A woman's voice. Friendly, casual. "I'm sorry, the Caldwells are out of town. Can I take a message?" "Oh, when will they be back?" "In about 10 days. "Okay, I'll try again later. Thanks." She hung up. I went to bed and didn't think much about it. Wrong number, probably. Or a friend who didn't know they were gone. The next night, the phone rang again. Same time, 11:07 p.m. I answered. "Hello? Hi, is this the Caldwell residence?" The same woman's voice. "Yes, but they're still on vacation." Oh, right. You told me that yesterday. Sorry. I'm so forgetful. When did they leave? Something felt off. Why would she ask when they left? A few days ago, I said vaguely. And you're watching the house? Yes. All by yourself? My stomach tightened. I'm sorry. Who's this? Just a friend. I'll call back later. Click. I stood there holding the phone, my heart beating faster. That conversation felt wrong. The questions felt invasive, personal. I checked all the doors and windows. Everything was locked. I turned on the exterior lights and checked through the windows. The street was empty, quiet. No cars, no people. I tried to shake it off. I was being paranoid. It was probably just a nosy neighbor. But that night, I didn't sleep well. Every sound made me jump. The house creaked and settled, and I lay in the dark, listening. The third night, I almost didn't answer when the phone rang at 11:07 p.m. But curiosity won. Hello? It's me again. The woman's voice was different now. Less friendly. Colder. I can see you didn't water the front plants today. My blood turned to ice. What? The petunias by the mailbox. They looked dry. I ran to the front window and looked out. The street was dark. I couldn't see anyone. Who is this? Someone who's been watching. You're not very good at your job, are you? I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them what? That someone called to remind you to water the plants? She laughed, then hung up. I immediately dialed 911, but hesitated before pressing call. What would I say? Someone called about plants? They'd think I was crazy. Instead, I called Mrs. Caldwell. It went to voicemail. They were probably asleep in Hawaii, 5 time zones away. I left a message. Mrs. Caldwell, someone's been calling the house asking strange questions. They said they can see the house. I think someone's watching. Please call me back. I checked every lock twice. I moved through the house turning on every single light. I found a knife in the kitchen and kept it with me. At 11:07 p.m. the next night, I was ready. The phone rang, and I answered immediately. Listen, I don't know who you are, but you need to stop calling. Look out the back window. My heart stopped. What? The window in the kitchen. Look outside. Every instinct screamed at me not to look. But I had to know. I walked slowly to the kitchen window, phone pressed to my ear. I looked out at the dark backyard, the pool, the fence line. At first, I saw nothing. Then, movement by the pool shed. A figure, standing completely still, staring at the house. I screamed and dropped the phone. I ran to the front door, fumbled with the locks, and burst outside. I ran to my car, got in, locked the doors, and called 911 with shaking hands. There's someone in the backyard. Please send help. 447 Oakmont Drive. The police arrived within minutes. They searched the backyard, the shed, the surrounding area. No one was there. They found no footprints, no evidence anyone had been there at all. Are you sure you saw someone? The officer asked gently. Yes, I'm sure. They took a report, advised me to call if anything else happened. They increased patrols in the area. After they left, I sat in my car in the driveway, trying to decide what to do. I couldn't go back in that house, but I had a job to do. The Caldwells were counting on me. I called my boyfriend, Marcus. He came over and stayed with me. Just having someone else there made me feel safer. At 11:07 p.m., we both waited. The phone didn't ring. See? Marcus said. Whoever it was, they're gone now. But I kept staring at that phone, waiting. It didn't ring that night, or the next night. The calls had stopped. The Caldwells came home 3 days later, tanned and happy. I told them everything. They were concerned but not overly worried. Probably just teenagers playing a prank, Mr. Caldwell said. You know how kids are. Maybe he was right. But 2 weeks after they got back, Mrs. Caldwell called me. I wanted to let you know, we're selling the house. What? Why? She was quiet for a moment. We had the security system people come out to check the cameras. We wanted to see if they caught anything from when you were staying here. And the cameras were disabled. Professionally. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. They disabled them the day before you arrived and turned them back on the day we got home. My skin went cold. So someone was? We don't know. But we found something else. In the crawl space above the garage. Someone had been staying there. There was a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and a notebook. What was in the notebook? Your schedule. What time you arrived each day. What time you left. What rooms you spent time in. Everything. I couldn't speak. There were also photos, she said quietly. Of you. Through the windows. I felt sick. The police have everything now. We're moving. We can't stay here knowing someone was living in our house, watching us. Watching you. They never found who it was. The notebook had no fingerprints. The photos were taken with a disposable camera, untraceable. But I know one thing. Those phone calls weren't random. They were checking, testing, making sure I was scared, making sure I knew I was being watched. And the figure by the pool shed? I saw them clearly for just a moment before I ran. They were holding something. A phone. They weren't in the backyard watching me. They were already inside the house, making that call from the Caldwell's second landline in the master bedroom. I'd been on the phone with someone who was standing directly above me the entire time. I never house sat again. And I never, ever answer a phone call from a number I don't recognize. Some calls aren't worth answering.